is your Feel Good Breakfast Show here on S3, and often we ask ourselves this question: how can we help our children develop life skills and hands-on confidence? Now, this morning we are chatting to Nikki Bush, human potential and parenting expert, for some practical advice and ideas, because she's right here in studio. We love that we get to connect with you, that you're hands-on with this. But let's start with practical skills. Why are practical life skills just so important?
Really, Jamie, we want kids who believe I can, I am, and I will. And these are the kinds of feelings that they actually get when they do stuff. Children are very concrete learners. They need the opportunity to do stuff in the world, to impact on the world. And one of the quickest, easiest ways to do that is stuff around the house. Life skills, and strangely enough, children today have very poor life skills. I think the pandemic in a way gave us a little bit of a boost because kids and their parents were at home together for extended periods of time. But on the whole, children don't even know what a potato peeler is today by the time they get into grade R, grade 1.
That is scary and also sad at the same time. That being said, where to from there? How are we as parents being able to enforce that and maybe change this narrative?
These sorts of things used to be passed on by parents to their children because they spent time together in the kitchen, time together doing the chores around the house. But of course, with many children today, now they're at school from 6 to 6 because they get dropped off at 6, they get collected when parents have finished work. And then when they get home, their parents have got so much to do, they tend to do everything themselves because it's more expedient, takes less time than if you include your children in doing the chores, preparing the meal, etc. And so you send your children off to play PlayStation, watch TV, or go and do their homework, and there's this void of life skills that are not being passed on. I talk about passing on the baton of responsibility to your children. And this happens alongside, parent and child alongside each other, doing things together.
And I love that you mentioned that, because parents are busy these days. You know, it is the sad reality that parents can't be with their kids 24/7, and when they do come home, they often don't have time. But how do we change that then? How do we give the kids the foundation to acquire these life skills?
So this is what I call parenting on the run, Jamie, and it's so important that we kill a few birds with one stone. You know, killing 2 birds with 1 stone is that saying. You've got to cook anyway. You've got to set the table anyway. The curtains must be closed. The dogs must be fed. The beds must be made. And so we must teach our children how to do these things with us and then for themselves, by themselves. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to praise and encourage your children. And you're together anyway. You know, you've got to be in the kitchen cooking the dinner. So invite the kids in to come and help you to chop the veggies or wash the dishes. While you're busy doing one thing, they're perhaps doing it with you or doing another thing. But they're in your orbit. And after a busy day, your children actually need to hear your voice. They need to smell you. They need to be close enough to have this sort of physical contact, this multi-sensory contact with you. But there's so much that children can learn from these very ordinary, mundane kind of sounding activities. And I think parents get caught in a trap today thinking that they need to entertain their children. And everything they do with their kids needs to be fun and exciting. And you want to be your child's friend. And you want everything to be happy. But actually the reality is, most of the pictures that are on Facebook and social media lie. They lie. Life is not perfect. Your children are not always clean and you know, well turned out.
And well behaved.
And well behaved. And I promise you, in most households, there's a bit of raising of voices and, you know, making kids get ready on time and, you know, all of those sorts of things. That's the reality of children learning how to do stuff, do it faster, do it better, get ready for school on time. That happens with practice. It doesn't happen overnight.
Practice, include them, and also be present. Well, I want to find out about when we can introduce this to our children, but luckily you're not going anywhere because we are going to be continuing this conversation on life skills and our kids with Nikki Bush in a bit, so stay with us.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
welcome back. It is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We are continuing our conversation with human potential and parenting expert Nikki Bush, talking about how to help our children develop life skills and also those hands-on confidence. Nikki, so good that you're still with us. We spoke about life skills and how important it is to include our kids every step of the way, but at what age do we start passing on these life skills to our children?
When our children are able to walk and talk, they can start closing curtains. Duvets are not difficult in terms of making beds. So from about the age of 4, they can start helping out around the house. And if you've got curtains that need closing at night, a 3-year-old is really quite able to pull those curtains closed or open them in the morning. And pets provide a wonderful opportunity for learning how to care for other living things because they need to be fed twice a day. And your child can be taught very easily, age 3, 4, how much dog food or cat food to put in the little blicky and pour it into the bowl. They get a huge amount of satisfaction out of this. There's a sense of mastery. Children are born to learn. They are curious and they actually want to do exactly what they see you doing and they want to get good at it. But we need to give them the opportunity.
That being said, if I get myself a dog now, and for my little one, I'm going to blame you. And then if Luca needs to pick up anything, I'm going to be like, Nikki, he didn't pick up anything. But when it comes to the age again, when it comes to a child being at 12 years old, what should they be able to do at that age?
So I've got a very long list here, and I'm going to cherry pick a few items that I think are important. So how about this one? Sewing on a button. And I'll never forget walking into my son's bedroom when he was about 13 and seeing him sewing on his blazer button because blazer buttons fall off all the time. Another time I found him with fishing gut stitching up a tog bag. And why was he able to do that? Because he had watched me sewing and he had been allowed to sew on buttons and things like that. So children learn skills often via osmosis and because we're prepared to take the risk. Children need to learn how to sweep and to mop and to vacuum. When my son landed up at university sharing digs with somebody who had had a domestic helper all his life, he had no idea how to use a mop. So my son had to teach him. So do your children have these basic life skills? Ironing a shirt, ironing clothes. So once children hit their teenage years, they need to learn things like this. Once again, one of my sons went to boarding school and the rule was you send your laundry to the laundry at school because this is what I'm paying for, because I don't want to be washing and ironing your stuff on a Sunday night. Well, about 6 weeks into the year, of course, the 1 week he forgot to drop his laundry off at the laundry, the school laundry, and brought it home. And I just looked at it and said, would you like a lesson in how to use the washing machine and the iron? Because I'm not doing it. And so that was his lesson in how to do his laundry. The interesting thing is he's a perfectionist and he actually loves the ironing. So that was interesting. And then things like cooking a meal. We don't let our children do it because we think they can't, they're too young. They can be in that kitchen with you from the age of 3. By the age of 9 or 10, they should be able to cook a proper meal, not just make a sandwich, but you would be surprised how many children at the age of 5 or 6 do not know how to make juice in a sandwich.
Or because they weren't involved and were not present when mom and dad or anyone was actually facilitating this or doing this.
Mom and dad were not invitational. They said, go away, we'll do it. And what happens then is that children don't believe they can. And I did have a dad come to me with a daughter of age 8 and another one of age 12. And he said, Nikki, you are absolutely right. I've been doing everything for so long. When I invited my girls into the kitchen recently to help me, they said, oh no, Dad, we can't do it as well as you. So we have to be really careful that we don't become servants to our children. So if we can upskill them to do stuff, it's important, like first aid. What do you do if you hurt yourself and you're bleeding? What do you do? Do you just go, or do you know that the plasters are in the top drawer in the kitchen and you know how to treat a basic wound? So just think about those life skills. We've talked a little bit about first aid, a little bit about cooking, a little bit about doing the chores. What about teaching your children to build a fire, a braai, safely. If you don't teach them properly, they will not be safe. Teach them properly, and they will know exactly what to do and how to keep themselves safe. And that's important. You need to have the peace of mind that your kids can cope with life.
You know what? I was very fortunate growing up to go to Girl Scouts. So these were the life lessons that I was taught, like making a fire. Whose responsibility is this? Is it ours as a parent, or is it the school's responsibility to teach these life skills to our children?
So unfortunately, fewer and fewer children are going to, Boy Scouts and Girl Guides these days. And it really is the parents' job to teach their children how to be in life, to be real with life. It's not the school's responsibility, but schools are having to teach children more and more. I watch in preschools as they teach children how to wash dishes with sunlight soap and make the bubbles and use the brush and the cloth.
Nikki, I wish I could sit with you the entire time. I feel like you're my new best friend, my new mommy friend. I want to ask you so many questions, but as always, it is a pleasure just tapping into your knowledge about all of our things, all of these things that we need answers to, life skills, our children, and I'm sure Mzansi has got some great tips from this. That was, of course, human potential and parenting expert Nikki Bush sharing some very keen insights with us. Now, for more info, get a hold of her book, Future Proof Yourself, and you can also visit her website, which is www.nikkibush.com.